Hello and welcome to Hidden Existence, and it's anything goes. I hope everybody's doing all right out there tonight. Not only am I streaming to my channel on YouTube, I'm actually streaming to the Pork and Beans group on Facebook. So hello to everybody who's watching from there. Got some great guests tonight. Also got my fantastic, beautiful co-host, Jason, co-host. Thank you for being here tonight, as always.
He is quite a beautiful man. He's a beautiful man.
Beautiful man.
Inside and out. And but what? Sorry.
But you do realize that you are looking at the world's handsomest man, Frank Oliver Beans.
We're getting to that. We're getting to
Okay.
that. I have to build it up. I'm building it up. Come on.
It's okay. I'm okay with competition. I am. You know, because that's how you know who the best is.
Oh.
So you're up for the challenge.
I am.
This is going to be some show tonight. I mean, already
it says on the Pork and Beans show.
He's undoing his button. It's going to get serious.
Going live soon on the Pork and Beans show.
Wait a minute! Don't bullshit me. I saw that Anything Goes that last show, and you didn't get serious one time, Jason.
We've also got a swear
jar. Whoa! I am always serious when it comes to this sexiness, sir. How dare you? How dare you?
Well, that was actually a compliment because I don't like seriousness.
When it comes to this sexiness,
and everyone can hear me. But I'm the only one. I'm the only one I can see. You guys aren't really in the show because there's no little photograph at the bottom.
Oh no! What's going on? Shall I introduce my guests, or should we just keep?
At this point, let's just keep rolling. I
no!
mean,
Introduce. I want to know who Jason is.
Oh yeah, it's not gone live, has it?
Hey, wait a minute. Do you have headphones? Because I complied. I don't comply with anything else these days, but I did comply with that. You're booming, Beans. Do you have headphones?
Who are you
Is that okay?
to?
You see, like the Pork and Beans show is very, it never runs smoothly, so we're just kind of carrying it over to you.
Oh, it's kind of chaos. Well, look, let me try and get some. Let me try and rein this in a little bit.
There's a feedback issue. I'll put on some headphones.
There's no feedback issue. We're doing all right, actually.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing all right. Sorry. It was coming from you, Mr. Cunningham. It was coming from your end before, but...
That's because I've got the big voice.
There you go, the big booming voice. Thanks, Gene. I may need it tonight. Thank you. But, my guest tonight... Mr. Pork Cunningham, Franco Beans from the Pork and Beans Show. Welcome to Hidden Existence.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on. I got into your channel a few months ago, slowly started watching things and found it very interesting that there's another side to Bigfoot that we often touch on, the woo, some people call it, the paranormal, whatever. I'm talking to more and more people that are experiencing different things. I mean, we have heard about it, we do talk to lots of people and we do hear about stuff, the mind speak and other things that go on. And I want to explore it more. And we're going to explore it more. And these two guys seem to be having some great experiences with it. And I want to know how you two got connected, because the main theme I'm getting from this is it's all about connections. The Bigfoot.
Absolutely.
And so how did you two come together?
You want to get into that, Mr. Beans? Because I'm not really sure how we came together. We just started talking.
Well, we were in the Spiritual SASQUATCH group together, and the Spiritual SASQUATCH group is antisocial private group. And
I like it already. I fully approve.
And I don't know, one thing led to another, but I've been doing podcasts since 2015. Sort of different thing. I did some UFO podcasts and some Bigfoot stuff. I interviewed.
You interviewed me couple times.
I interviewed you like 2 times, and C. Wayne Wilson, and I was kind of the reason why I wanted to do podcasts is because I knew that I'm coming from the sort of the ET psychic, consciousness is the key side of it. So, I interviewed this guy, C. Wayne Wilson, and he ended up taking off after a few years. He's got really big following now. He's got a couple of movies under his belt, and he's just 100%. And that guy was, sort of born looking at ghosts in a ghost house. So I don't remember. I think Brian wanted to do a show, and so he tried to get a couple of his friends to co-host, and he's so rest is history. How many shows we got now? 60 of them, something like that.
Over 80.
Not including the ones that you do. You do one every 15 minutes.
No. About 80. I've done 2 conversations with Port Cunningham, which is like the little brother of this show, not your show, the Pork and Beans. And but no, we've got about 80 Pork and Bean shows, and they average about 3.5 hours long, so that's a lot of material in there.
3 hours, yeah, and we got just an incredible amount of people. I mean, the quality of people. Who's that guy that what is it? Robert. What's it? Rensberger? What's his name?
Rensbury.
Robert Rensbury. He wrote a book on portals. The Sasquatch took him into a portals, and then told him to write a book about it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just one. We've had there's people like Barry Webster. Barry Webster's had over 250 sightings, and it's all public. And he shook hands with a Sasquatch, an invisible Sasquatch. He was levitated off the ground by a Sasquatch. And on and on and on. And then we got a lot of people who love Zap. The people who've been experiencing so much love from the Sasquatch people. We've had grown men crying on the show. I would say, "What have you ever had the love Zap?" And they start crying right there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other side of the, what they call the infrasound. So,
well,
paranormal, that side is really the big.
It could be that they're crying just because they realize, what in the hell am I doing on this show, and how do I get off?
I'm wanting to cry right now. Real quick though, where y'all are located in British Columbia, right? Or are y'all some?
I am.
You are. Okay.
I'm in Savannah, Georgia, so we got this cross-continent kind of thing going on.
Gotcha. Okay. Because there was a comment where Danielle was like having to put up all these crazy Americans, and I'm like, hold on, I think one of them is a Canuck. So.
Oh well, that balances it out then, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because
he's one of yours, Danielle. I don't think that's
he's one of yours. I'll claim Frank, but Pork's one of yours.
One of whose?
Well, Danielle is British, so.
Oh yeah. I'm
not
part of the colonies. Part of the colonies.
Test results. Remember, Jason. I'm not
Legally,
remotely British.
You're not. No one's remotely anywhere where they live anymore. That's hasn't been the case for centuries. Just saying, you're still British. You're paying British taxes.
Well, a little bit.
Hey, I used to until 1967, I think it was. Or 66, we used to have to sing "God Bless the Queen" every morning in school.
Yeah, that's where I thought. Like, he's still he's still kind of one of yours.
Yeah, so, no, let's not go there.
But think about it, three nations worth of people are all sitting here talking on one thing.
I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. All the best music comes from England, other than the Birds and a couple bands,
I was about to say, okay, I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah,
no, hold on.
The music.
Blur, song 2, yeah. Gorillas, yeah. I'm down with that.
Right, should we get back to what we're doing?
What are we doing?
I'm not trying to be a party pooper.
We don't follow a schedule very well, but if you ask us some questions, I might be able to. Go ahead. Let's give it a try.
Let's try.
Let's try.
Well, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. there's obviously some sort of communication thing going on. There's obviously something that you guys are experiencing, a different side to Sasquatch that not everybody else is. I mean, some people are having what they call terrifying encounters, scary encounters, just a glimpse of these things, a 5-second experience. There's something else going on where you're communicating with them. How did this start with you? What happened? How do these things start, and how do you make sense of them?
You talking to me?
I'm talking to you. Sorry, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that if you have a connection with Sasquatch, you've probably had it long before you consciously know it. Sometimes even in past lives or whatever, So as weird as that sounds, but I've always had a fascination with them. Always been totally intrigued with them. Like UFO books or Loch Ness Monster or whatever. I never moderately interesting, but I was just totally fascinated with Sasquatch, and I don't think that that's a coincidence, obviously, because I don't believe in coincidence. But one day I was walking my dogs on the dikes, which is a waterway, just to clarify. And well, hey, I don't want to offend anybody, right? Well, I do, but I want to do it sneakily.
It's like a ditch, isn't it, down the side of the road?
Well, that's how you got. No wonder.
Yeah.
That's how you got. I can't believe you never told that story before. It's fantastic.
So anyway, I'm walking my dogs. Oh, by the way, I'm drinking sleepy time tea, so if I fall asleep, just yell at me.
Because of us, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm walking my dogs along the dikes, and suddenly I just got mind speak. Go to the mountains. And it was a really strong energy feeling. Go to the mountains. And so I was always looking up Sasquatch and whatever anyway at work, because I worked graveyard and I had like the computer there. I was just doing security. So I had all the time in the world. And I was on Bobby Short, the late Bobby Short site, Bigfoot Encounters, I think. And I saw a guy there that was like right from my hometown. His name is Randy Brusson. And so I sent him a friend request on Facebook, and he called me about a week later. Then I went out with him, and right from day one, we started having activity. And I was like, it was just like, wow, like right away, like tree knocking and whoops, and they were leaving glyphs and the little communication that they do. And that caught my attention immediately. So how it works is that, I got connected with him, and then connect people. They connect people to other people. And so I started getting connected to people like Tom Cantrell, Arla Collette, my wife, stuff like that. And so it just went on and on and on and built from there. That's how I got into it.
Right. Well, it sounds fascinating. There's obviously a lot more to it. But why are they? How did it happen to you? Why are people open? Some people are open to this, and some others. Why are people hearing mind speak, and others are not having like an infrasound or a negative effect?
Because it's only the cool people. They're one of the cool people.
Right. Okay.
That's why they don't talk to me.
They want it. Because they have a powerful message of connection, and they want to connect with people who are open to that. An open heart, basically, mostly. So if they figure that they can teach you and you're open to it, those are the people they're going to connect with. That's why, with all due respect, because I don't like. I think judgment is one thing that they teach us not to do, because it takes you down that negative energy road and it drops your energy. But with all due respect, some of these big time investigators, some of these guys with the big names or whatever, they don't have the open heart. They're looking for something else, so they want to connect with people.
They have an agenda.
Mm.
You don't have agendas with friends. With friends, you're just friends.
I'm not smart enough to formulate an agenda, so maybe that's the maybe that's the secret. But no, they want to connect with people with open hearts and who are willing to listen.
I'm trans agenda.
Transagender. I
I
just
got the joke.
We have often spoke about how many people have experiences and not talking about the kind of things that are happening to you. But I feel like this kind of thing is being talked about more recently, and I'm hoping more people will come forward with the added bits of information that maybe they haven't given originally, because it sounds too out there. I mean, it sounds, it does sound too out there. I know, and don't get me wrong, I believe 100% you're all experiencing it, not just you, the other people that I've spoke to. You've all said similar things, and I know you don't know each other. So that's interesting as well. Yeah. So there has to be something about it. And Jean, kind of matchmaker, some strange connections are happening because of this subject. The way people are meeting, the coincidences. It is a strange subject. What do you think, Jason?
So this is where things get a little like Senor Cunningham here. I don't believe in coincidence, and I'm gonna let you get dark for like 2 seconds, only to bring it back. There does seem to be certain people who, if something happens to them when they're young, I'll stay vague, then they will see things later in life, right? This happens across a whole lot of fields. It does seem like there are patterns that are emerging, connections that shouldn't exist unless there was a higher, or if we want to use it, I'm not afraid of the term supernatural connection to things. It's as if you're touched by something early on, it'll show back up. Now, does that mean that they were necessarily did you become part of something that you can't necessarily escape? Is there some sort of a scent that gets put on you? I don't know, but I do think it does go far beyond simple coincidence or chance. In fact, chance really isn't a thing. That's one of those. Chance is one of the great lies that we tell ourselves, because all chance is, it's too many. The calculations is the wrong word. Influences. It just means there's too many influences to count. Like when you flip a coin, right? They say chances are 50-50 of it landing one way or the other. But if you could control all of the variables, you could determine whether it landed heads or tails every single time. The problem is there just are too many variables for you to actually monitor and to control for. Chance is simply us saying there's too many variables for us to control for. So we can't predict the outcome. Chance isn't itself a thing. So once you realize that, you realize there's something that is affecting the probability of these people meeting and coming in contact with many different phenomena. Let me say it that way, because it's not just, I know we're talking about Bigfoot tonight and everyone's coming out, but I'm more of a generalist. There's a lot of different things out there that have similar crossovers to the what people call the woo side of Bigfoot. And so I just don't think it's a coincidence. It does seem like you saw this kind of weird, strange phenomena when a kid, you're going to be seeing it later on in your life. Mm-hmm. And maybe you're having different encounters. So, and I think that's well outside of the probability of just something randomly happening. It's a deliberate thing.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, and I actually had somebody checking in on me when I was a teenager. First time I realized that is obviously connected to what's going on now. Did you want to hear that quickly?
Sure.
Because I think that the Sasquatch and the Star Nations people, the benevolent ones, and all this stuff is all connected, and they're all kind of pulling the rope the same way to try to wake us up. But anyway, I'll get into that. We can get into that later. But so anyway, I was in a rock and roll band, and I came from Ontario, Canada, back to British Columbia to start this rock and roll band with my friend, and I'm laying in his basement just on a mattress, and I definitely was not asleep. I just laid down. All of a sudden, I saw glowing outline of a human being standing at the foot of the bed, and it was like completely transparent, but it looked like it was lit up with fluorescent lights, almost like a crime scene chalk line kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it was just looking at me, and it stayed there for a matter of seconds. And then all of a sudden I looked to my left, and it was on his hands and knees right beside me, kind of had its head like looking right at me, like kind of thing. And you would think that that would have freaked me out, but it really didn't. It was, and I think it's because subconsciously or something, I knew who they were. Like it, you know, it didn't, like even with all my Sasquatch experiences, which have all been positive, still some people would be freaked out by it. It doesn't freak me out because there's some connection there that just below the surface that I know about, right? So I think that you know, like that being who was checking me out was kind of a precursor to what I'm experiencing and going through now.
So out of curiosity, what do you think that the creature was? Do you think it was a Sasquatch, or do you think it was something else?
Well, it didn't look Sasquatch size. It looked like just the outline of a human being. It looked more, you know, I would say maybe an ET or something. But it had a human shape and human size.
That's interesting. I saw something when I was a kid. I think I was about 5 or 6 years old. I was in bed, and I turned around for some reason, and I saw something white, which I felt like was a female, and it was like glowing white, not a sharp light, but like a glowing white. And I had a sense of it was saying, not that I heard it, but like it was okay, that I felt safe. Like you say, you think you'd freak out and being a child and seeing something like that. Never felt like that. Felt very calm and almost like it was saying to me, it's okay, don't worry, there's no, you know, and then it just went. There was no face or anything, but there was a form, and it just made me think of a white flowing dress. And that's why I felt it was a female. But I know what you mean about not feeling freaked about these things.
No, my reaction was, well, that was cool. That's the only reaction I had, even in, you know, and it was, it didn't freak me out at all. But the Sasquatch can also do that to you. You know, they can send you an energy that will calm you down, even when, you know, like I've had friends who have gone out and experienced some, like that I've introduced to them and whatever, and said you should go out and spend some time yourself or whatever. And one guy in particular, and this is common, this happens a lot, I've heard this over and over and over again. He's laying in his tent in the woods, and he hears the Sasquatch talking, like, you know, they're all talking around him. And then these owls came in, and he said one of them wasn't an owl, though. It was like, he just, you know, it was a little different. And he was starting to get a little scared. All of a sudden, he got this energy that calmed him down and relaxed him. They took the fear away. So they can absolutely do that.
Cool.
So,
it's a good point, Iron Dog. A good way to look at it.
Yes.
So
What else? What came in? You said the Bigfoot were talking. Something came in. So it was an owl. Was it an owl that came in, or?
Well, I mean, they can shapeshift. I mean, I've had many experiences with it where they have absolutely shapeshift into owls. Ravens are really common, and other animals, and even, believe it or not, humans. And I got a confirmation. That's why, you know, like with the Pork and Bean Show, and when we're talking about stuff like this, that's why it's so important, because some of this really far out stuff comes out there, and then other people who, you know, like they don't think anyone else experienced it. It resonates with them, and it's like identical to what they experienced, and then it kind of gives credibility to what they were experiencing, whatever, which is really important, right? Yeah, and I mean, I could tell you this story if we want to get into it at some other a little later about how, you know, I experienced them as human beings, but I wasn't 100% sure, although very, very confident. But then my friend had the same experience, but he took it up a notch more because there was something that happened that just left it without any doubt. So they can actually shapeshift into any form or shape that they want. And they can actually have two people standing beside each other, and one will see like a little dog if they're not ready to see a Sasquatch, and one will see a Sasquatch. And the same with audible stuff or feelings or energy or any of that.
So, okay, so quick question then. Would you say, and this is sort of a two-part question. First part is, do you think that these Sasquatch are part of, say, a broader ecosystem of, let's just say, supernatural entities, for lack of a better term, that this is one element to a broader spectrum of entities? Is that what, or do you think it's all one thing?
No, I think they're working in conjunction with each other, because what they want us to know, like when I got my love zap, that came to me like clearly. I knew automatically I was connected into everything. I knew I was a universal being. It's a knowing, right? It's a knowing. It's hard to explain. I knew that there was no judgment. I knew there was no hatred. I knew none of these negative things that humans are programmed to think and act like. None of that exists in their vibration. And so the transition that they're talking about, or the conscious shift, is really a vibrational shift. And I knew immediately when I felt, oh, and I'm getting the energy. See, when I talk truth about them, my whole body lights up with energy. So I knew immediately that
Live,
is the answer
folks.
for us.
He's getting a zap live on your show. He's getting a zap from the
Live
Sasquatch
zapping.
people, and this happens all the time. And it happened, and after the show too. For me, it was an hour before the show. I started feeling my heart, and I was going, oh, and more heart. And then I remember, oh yeah, I got a show today, and so for the last hour and a half, 2 hours, I've been feeling my heart. I was just then pleased that I'm going to do this. Talk kindly about the Sasquatch people.
So basically, just to wrap up that, and then you can get down to some beanery. That's the answer to the transition or whatever, because when you feel that love vibration, you cannot judge, you cannot hate, you cannot, you don't put your energy into the negative things that we're taught as children, like we don't like this person, we don't like that, we don't like this religion, we don't like this politics, we don't like the way you look, it's none of that can exist. And so your energy can't go there. That's what the transition and what they're trying to teach us, or the conscious shift is about no judgment, the love vibration. And it sounds flowery and all that, but I know it's true. I don't even doubt it, because it's such a knowing, and it's like energy is like the universal language, Energy doesn't lie. I mean, sure, you could be, if you can read it properly, you could have things come in and try to fool you, but if you know what you're dealing with and you know the energy and you can read it, then you can't really be fooled.
Well, look, we'll get into it a little bit more. I just want to bring Franco Beans in a little bit, because he's been waiting patiently. What's your connection to it then, with Sasquatch? Are you experiencing the same thing, or
No, I have a completely different, although really nice experience with the Sasquatch people. I started off, didn't know anything about Sasquatch people. I heard this guy on a talk show back in 2012, and what was his name? Anyway, he was talking about his interaction with Sasquatch, and so I thought that interested me, and so I found him on Facebook. Thomas Hughes. His name was Thomas Hughes, and he used to be it was part Indian, and he had a radio show, but he happened to be on somebody's talk show like this, and he was talking about, one of the things that he said was that he was talking to his plant as he was coming into his house. He'd had this interaction with the Sasquatch, and it was kind of nice. That was the main story. But what caught my attention was he came in and was talking to his plant. They have these plants in the arid part of country that has these long leaves with a little needle on it. It's actually like a sewing needle, and it's like something like in the yucca plant or something. And he was talking to the plant, and he said, "Oh, thank you for protecting my house from robbers, and you're doing a good job. You look beautiful." And then he went in his house, but for some reason that stuck into my head. And so anyway, I called him up a week later because I'm thinking, I've heard of the secret life of plants and Finhorn and all that kind of stuff, and so I thought, who's this guy? Because the idea of talking to a plant was just so foreign to me. So I called him up and I was talking to him about that, and he's been he's like a quarter Indian or something. He said, well, that's just what we do in our culture. We talk to them and they talk back, and I was like, what? And then later on, after I kind of assimilated that, I asked him about Sasquatch, and he said, "Oh, if you want to know Sasquatch, just go out in your front yard and say, hey, Sasquatch, I want to be friends." He said, "Do that every day for a couple of weeks and see what happens." So I did it every day, or every couple times when I remembered, for a couple of weeks, and then one night when I was sleeping, I got this vision. I got taken away on a shamanic journey. These two Mexican Indians in cowboy hats and boots, and they're real short guys. They're like 4'5" or something like that. They're real. I'm really, but I mean, if you go to actual Mexicans in Mexico, they're short people. So these guys came and took me out of my bed, took me out there in Arizona somewhere, and had me sit on a rock and talk to another rock. They said, "You sit on this rock and talk to that rock." And and I'm not a lucid dream guy, but I figured, well, okay, this is pretty cool. I've never had a lucid dream before, so I'm sitting on the rock and talking to the other rock, and the other rock starts saying, "I'm the god rock. I'm a rock god." And I'm going, and in my head I was processing that. I'm going, okay, just go along with it. I said, okay. And then the rock began to talk about how water and rock. The reason why he's a god is because water and rock make life, right? And then he began showing me from all the different animals, the whole of evolution of life on Earth, how anytime there's water and rock to get together, that they make life. And then the first thing that life makes is more water and rock. Okay, this thing went on for 3 hours, and in the end was culminated with and human beings, when they're born and they come to a new life, their bones are the rock and their blood is the water, and the blood is made inside the bone. So that's this whole mind-blowing thing, and then, okay, that's not enough. Okay, that's not enough. Then I told my son about it the next day. I said, well, that's what kind of a wild dream I had. It was like this thing. And then for 2 more days, that God rock talked to me in the daylight while I'm conscious. And it talked to me about how they wanted, the rock people, the rock nations wanted to bring light to the planet. And then they showed me the whole evolution of magnetism and wires and copper and all this stuff that was gifted to the people who are into magnetism and lights and energy and electricity. So that was kind of a mind blower, and there's more that I could talk about it. So and then it took me a couple of months later before I even figured out, right? Because none of this stuff had anything at all to do with Sasquatch, right? And then I realized, oh my God, this whole thing about my question was, what kind of a headspace could you be in to talk to a tree or to a plant, And they gave me that experience. The Sasquatch gave me that experience of what kind of a headspace you can be in. In other words, they showed me that everything in the universe is conscious and can talk to you. A tree can talk to you, a rock can talk to you, a plant can talk to you, the river can talk to you, the sky can talk to you, the ETs can talk to you, the animals can talk to you, and you can talk back to them. Now, I'm not skilled in that category. But I knew right then that these guys were master teachers. Only a master teacher would be able to do that without words. So from then on, right, that was in the 2012, early 2013, they spent 2 more years teaching me about the all one and no space, which is really important because they say we live in the no space, and they're all one, all connected. That's what they're talking about, and that those two things right there, it's a little bit hard to explain, but no space is like right. We're talking, right? I'm talking, and I'm in my bedroom, and then there's a space here to my computer, right? And it goes out, and it's going out to all these different places. And then there's your computer and your ears, right? That's the space that's between us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the Sasquatch, they don't have that space. You know what I'm saying? There's no space. So if there's no space, that means there's no time. That means, and to answer Jason's thing about synchronicity and coincidence, that if you're living in no space, right, that means you can go to any point in space and time and see what's going on, and see what the destiny in the future is, and what needs to be done, or what could be done, and where you should be inserted or not inserted into influenced by the Sasquatch people. If you're on that kind of a level with them.
Yeah. Not only no space, but no time.
No time.
Because I've had experiences where I've documented all my glyphs and my script writing and whatever, and I've proven without a shadow of a doubt to myself and that they knew that I was going to look at a glyph. I didn't have the understanding of it when I first seen it. I'd look at it 5 years later and say, "Oh wow, they already knew that I was going to come up. They already knew I was going to come up with that knowing." I mean, and it's undeniable. And by the way, that the rock god that Franco Bean's talking to, he was kind of pissed off because he didn't like being called as dumb as a bag of rocks. Remember that?
Yeah. They looked it up in the Bible, and God is described as mentioned as a rock, or being a rock 65 times. So it's not, God, God is my foundation stone. God is the cornerstone. God is the rock to build your nation on. You know what I'm saying? So the idea, and Christ saying, if I tell these people to be quiet, the rocks will stand up and sing. Yeah. So, it's not, this is like years of putting stuff together to try to make sense of it all. So that we have this universe that is totally conscious. There's not one thing that's not conscious. Not your car is conscious being, and rock is a conscious being, and that's just a different mindset. And as soon as you have that mindset, or a little, then all this other stuff makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. I mean, science has proven that trees in a forest can communicate with each other all across to the other side of the forest. So that tells me, and I know it's true, that we can do the same thing,
And what you speak to water, if you take a drop of water, you say, "I love you," and you make a crystal out of it, it'll make a beautiful crystal. And if you say, "I hate you" to water, it'll make a horrible looking crystal. So everything is conscious. Everything is available for a relationship with you.
Or is it that consciousness simply affects the reality around you? If our universe is created out of thought, then wouldn't thought then recreate what's around you and influence what's around you?
It's both. Not either or.
So let's go back to the question of the Sasquatch being all there is, or is it a spectrum of beings? Because you mentioned that what came to you was probably not a Sasquatch per se, but something else. So are you saying that there's in your experience, is there a variety of entities that are taking various shapes, various things to communicate and operate on our plane of existence?
Yes and no. Yes and no. the no would be that there is only one. The quantum physics, right? All these guys were mind blown because you do the measurement problem. If you look at reality one way, it'll change it, and if you look at it another way, it'll change it another way. That's the measurement problem with quantum physics. And if you multiply that out along with entanglement, right? They just talk about two little entangled particles, but the reality is the entire universe is completely and totally entangled. And all these guys who did the founders of quantum physics, they come up with this idea that there's only one mind in the entire universe. So on one hand, there's this multiplicity of what looks like beings, and on the other hand, there's just one thing. See, there's just one thing. And that's how it all works. It works by being in that one thing. The one thing is connected to everything.
Right. No, and I get that idea that on the macro level it's one fully function, like a human body is trillions and trillions of cells, but it's one being. And that's and so within that body, carrying the metaphor over, we have white blood cells, red blood cells, all kinds of different types of independent cells doing their independent thing. So there's not just the Sasquatch people, there's the Sasquatch people, and there's probably myriads of these other individual cells that comprise this greater thing.
Yeah, including the star people. We've got over, say, 3,000 different star nations, different types of ETs that actually come into our atmosphere every year. And there's probably only about 12 that are really significant. Most of them are just drive by, whatever. But this universe is teeming with life of every kind of shape, size, dimension. It's teeming with life.
So the ones that they're sort of like drive by, they're just stopping, they're just making a pit stop, picking up some Pall Malls and going on their way.
Yeah, basically.
Big Mac.
Pick up a little bit of, they just get some water, they bottled water.
How healthy.
Whatever.
Hey, look, we're the gas station of the universe, man. Everyone wants a pack of smokes every once in a while. I don't care how advanced your civilization is.
By the way, I don't see any comments. Does that mean that nobody likes this, or am I supposed to see comments?
Yeah, you should be able to see comments. Have you pressed the comments?
On your on the right hand side of your screen, there should be a private chat.
Oh, there we go. Hey, everybody.
We've got
We're
them all
loved.
there.
They love us.
We've had some questions come a little bit too early, so they've probably gone off the screen for me.
This goes back to going back to Jason again. This goes back to the ET thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is the ET? If you want to understand Sasquatch, you pretty much have to have a good basic understanding of what the ET agenda is and what they're doing. They've been preparing Earth and humans for 80 years, 70 years to be used to the idea of ETs, because they want to make, like you said, Earth is a pit stop, is 7-Eleven stop by on intergalactic place. But this is kind of a big deal because that's going to bring us the free energy, the med beds, colleges that are driven, the learning centers for engineering, for medical, for spirituality, for all this kind of stuff. They want to, basically hang out on Earth and have Earth become part of a galactic thing. In order to do that, they don't want to be shot at. They don't want to be, people freaking out and stuff like that. So, and then the other thing, okay, so I just said there's about 2,000 or 3,000 that come by and visit every year. And we're not going to learn 2,000 or 3,000 ET star languages. We're not going to do that. So what you need is people who can communicate with MindSpeak. And those people who are communicating with MindSpeak are going to be ambassadors. So when the ETs come in to visit their friends and they need this, or they want to do some trade or something, and I guarantee you they're not going to want to hang out in the big cities. These big spaceships and stuff, they're not going to come here to hang out in Chicago. They want to go to someplace nice. And whatever's nice is probably where the ETs, the Sasquatch are. So there's a whole thing about that. And this is not the first time that this happened. Back in the time of Lemuria, and even in if you look in the Hindus, they had all this flying, Vimanas and stuff. So back in the time of Lemuria, at the time of Mu, and then in the time of Atlantis, the whole Atlantis thing was a nightmare because the wrong ETs got in there and messed things up and whatever. So this is going to be our third time of being an intergalactic. Only this time it's going to be a global kind of a thing. So that's what's going on, really. And in order to do that, they need to lift up the vibration of the people on Earth.
So we got a really good question here from Gene Hudson.
Let me just go back to what you're saying though about the ETs.
Okay.
How does the Bigfoot come into it? When you're saying people might not be able to accept, ETs at the moment, how about Bigfoot then? Why is that less scary? Why is it coming in that form? Because it's scaring the heck out of some people. Why would it come in such a form to frighten some people just by the sight of it? Obviously, why doesn't it not come in an easier form for people?
It's how people interpret it. Like, for instance, if somebody throws if Sasquatch throws a rock out on the path in front of me, I'm saying, yeah, my friends are here. Other people grab your gun, Annie, grab your gun and whatever, and just get freaked out. It depends on how you interpret it, right?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've often
go back to the early days of the UFO sightings and UFO abductions, right? In the early days, it was like, oh, they're anally probing us and they're violating us, and it was like a rape kind of a deal. It's kind of right. Well, that went on for a while, but then as people got used to it, right, this whole fear and trauma and PTSD and, oh my God, the alien invasion is horrible. It shifted because their energy went up, their consciousness went up, their hearts opened, their respect for Mother Nature went up, their mind expanded, right? And to now, what the actual numbers are is there's only 10% of the people who've been taken on a craft have an issue with it. And then there's another 10% who don't care one way or another. But there's 80% of the people who've been on the craft now say that they would like to be connected. They'd like to go on a craft again. They feel like the star people are their brothers and sisters. So to answer your question about why is it so scary, the Sasquatch are not scary. It's it's this beginning thing, right? When you get taken onto a craft, it's scary as hell. You know what I mean? And it's a violation because they take you in their sleep. And it's the same thing with Sasquatch. But once you break that barrier and you get to connect with the intelligence, the consciousness that is them, the ancient civilization that is the Sasquatch people, they've seen us. They've seen us coming, right? And then they've been here from the beginning. To them, they haven't fallen, and we have fallen. In other words, at one point we had these abilities that they had, invisibility and psychic connection and all that kind of stuff, and we fell down into materialization. So, but the ETs have an agreement, right, with the government that they can't come here and knock on your window at night and stuff like that, or land in the open in the park and have a little, town hall meeting. They're not allowed to do that. So Sasquatch are playing their part, and ETs are playing their part.
We got a really good question from Gene Hudson that I thought that really is relevant. Can I ask it?
Put this up, yeah.
She says, for pork and beans, do Sasquatch sometimes? Oh, there you go. Wow, you're good.
I know.
Do Sasquatch
sometimes take over your conversations on shows? I know they will let you know what you can and can't say to some people. Does that happen?
Well, we've had sometimes where I've talked about things that are sensitive that they don't want talked about, where they've actually cut the feed off.
Right.
But generally they let us know let me know anyway with energy. If I'm talking truth and something that they really want, like I experienced just earlier, if they talking truth and something they really want brought up or whatever, they give me a big energy buzz, like, yes, that's the truth, and yes, get that out there. So they guide the conversations, and they guide them with their energy, and what you can and can't say to some people. Well, I don't know, because I believe that
you can get a poke of like, don't do this or do this, or if you say something, you get a poke with, oops, that wasn't the right thing to say, but it's nothing hard and fast.
No.
Yeah.
Put up Gary Johnson's. I want to address that one.
I'd like to just go on the end of this, though. What you can and can't say to some people, like some people, they figure they got a reputation or something, or they don't want to be considered to be nuts. Like, if I'm going to talk about Sasquatch and I'm going to represent them and be an ambassador for them, which, as weird as it sounds, they've actually told me, they said in my head, you represent us everywhere you go. So if I have that responsibility, then I'm not going to tell half the story. I don't care what it sounds like. I'm going to tell it as it is. If a Sasquatch appears in my room out of a cloud of smoke, I'm going to say that. I'm not going to hold back, because I think, well, maybe people don't want to hear this. So they don't tell me what I can and can't say. Sometimes things they don't want talked about that are personal to them or whatever, in that sense, but not I'm not in the big overall picture of stuff. No.
Yeah. It's not like it's some government secret. There's no secrets you're going to give out or anything like that. I mean, does this make sense now that the government know nothing about this because they can't physically get hold of them? I mean, is it on the government's radar at all?
Well, I think, like
Absolutely.
the government don't want us to wake up. I mean, how do they control us? With fear and division, right? The Sasquatch are all about connection, love, no judgment, no hatred, and that's diametrically, is that the right word?
Yeah, diametrically opposed ideas.
Opposed to exactly what the government and those guys want, and what is real, true, and what the Sasquatch want. So it's like total opposite. So they don't want people waking up. The Sasquatch are trying to wake us up, so they're not big fans of them.
I can give you academic data on how many people have seen Sasquatch on a craft. Then you go to a craft, and there's some kind of a craft, and you see craft. The academic data is 14% of the people who go on a craft and they're conscious and they can look around. 14% see the large Sasquatch type beings, and 17% see the small Sasquatch, which is, there's another brand of Sasquatch that are like 5 feet and under, and
the little people.
They're little, but they're hairy Sasquatch types. They look like Sasquatch. Okay, so that's like whatever it is, 31%, something like that, or 30 something percent. That's a lot of people. And then if you go to if you talk to this lady Barbara Lamb, who's a big researcher, she's researched Sasquatch, and she's a big UFO researcher. She's been on the circuit for a long time, Barbara Lamb. Her contacts in South America say that over 50% of the people who get taken on a craft in South America, South America, we're kind of egotistical Americans, but in South America, it's 50% of them say it was a Sasquatch craft and a Sasquatch crew that took them to do the same kind of stuff that they're doing to us, with the upgrades and the body stuff and the healings and all the kind of stuff. So in reality, the Sasquatch, and just like we are living on the earth, right? But human beings have people who have humans who go into space. As we have a space fleet, and they go into space. So the Sasquatch are the same way. They have the people who are living on the earth, and there's a whole other category of Sasquatch that are pretty much living in craft. So they are ETs. They are doing that, and then the government treats them exactly like in ET. As a matter of fact, I have a list of 46 things that the ETs can do that the Sasquatch can do. There's just mind speak, go invisible, make people paralyzed, give them screen memories, the men in black, messing with mess with electronics. It just goes on down. There's 46 things. That's just the back of an envelope, so they're identical basically energetically and philosophically and in reality to the ETs.
That actually answers a lot of questions for me. That's something that I've been sort of looking at as the overlaps and a lot of seen phenomena between these things. But one question I have, and allow me to parse this if I may, is it possible that Sasquatch and Bigfoot are two different things? That there's Sasquatch, there's the energetic, they're invisible, they can mind speak, do whatever, but that there's also a largely bipedal or semi-bipedal primate that's just nothing, that's not part of this larger, let's say, elevated high ecosystem. It's just down here with the rest of us mammals and animals, just living, doing its normal thing. Is it possible that individuals who are just out there doing their thing and these creatures emerge, literally scream at them or even assault them, that's a Bigfoot? It's a physical creature. It lives, it dies. It's not part of this larger ecosystem. But that Sasquatch is there. That's the superior things. That's the thing that's on craft. Is it possible these are actually two different phenomena? And the problem is, as humans, we're combining them and we need to separate them out.
It's hard to put human values on the Sasquatch reality. My answer to you would be yes to all of that. I'll give you an example. There's the gray aliens, right? Everybody knows about the gray aliens, see pictures about the gray aliens, stories about the gray aliens. But the people who know the gray aliens, who are, knowledgeable about these things, says there's more than 50 different types of gray aliens. 50 different types. And they run the full spectrum from very high spiritual loving beings to just normal, interesting, high, intelligent beings, and all the way at the other end of the spectrum is to evil beings. And they all look similar. Right. Okay, so and the Sasquatch are the same way. There's a wide variety of body shapes, a wide variety of philosophies, a wide variety of understandings, and a lot of there's actual Sasquatch who really don't like humans at all. I mean, they've had their relatives. They have very long memories, and right. If they've had their relatives killed, their grandfather or wife killed, they're not going to be all love and light and let's do a little dance around the campfire. Yeah, but the other ones who are more spiritually mature and more advanced on that level realize that the destiny of humanity and the destiny of the Sasquatch people are united by our feet on the same Mother Earth, because Mother Earth is going through stuff that we as humans need to take into account. We need to be connected to the earth and to nature more than we have for a very, very long time. And that's what Sasquatch are really doing,
Yeah. I mean, Sasquatch have kind of answered that question about connection, because I deal with a stick writing with them. We communicate back and forth with it, and it's telepathic, and it's actually personal to you. It's an agreement between you and them, what they mean. That's why when people ask me, well, what does this mean? I can't tell you what it means. I know what it means to me. And that sounds like a cop-out, but it really isn't. It really is a telepathic connection and an understanding between you and them. And one of the glyphs that they leave for me is a Y stick, okay? A Y stick, 2 prongs with a stem. Yeah. And what it means is man, one of the prongs, Sasquatch, the other prong, connected. And that's a very common one that they leave me. And they leave it in, intertwine it with other messages, like they can write out sentences basically with them.
Right.
Yeah. So.
What's that mean?
That's a really interesting one. Now that is they have connected my wife Susan and I. They wanted us together for a long time because they do play Cupid. If they have people that they want to work for them and stuff. So that is like what I call the fish glyph, okay? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is the main body of it. But this is interesting because this is a case in point as to what I was talking about, how they know what I am going to find out like years and years and years beforehand. So I was looking for this particular glyph one day because I really like it. It's one of my favorite ones of Susan and myself connection. But when I first saw it, you notice how there's a little Y stick curled into it?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until I looked back at it when I came to that understanding of the Y stick, and I said, they knew 5 years ago that I was going to come to that. And what it means is that Susan and I were connected. That's our connection glyph, the fish glyph. And the little Y is man Sasquatch connected. So it's all about it's a message of connection. And the little leaf is just sometimes they get decorative and they just love to, that's a female that does that actually. She likes to make things pretty and stuff. And so she just put that little leaf there.
As decoration? It's not like an apostrophe or something where like,
Well, I mean, it could have another, it could have another meaning, but if it does, I'm not aware of it. But the beautiful thing of that is, like I said, that Y stick, I didn't even consider it when I first saw it. And then when I look back, when I understood what the Y stick meant, I said, oh my God, here they are again. They already knew I was going to come to that understanding.
This is another one of yours, is it, that you found? Or a message?
Absolutely. Well, there's, they can like, you have to look at them abstractly sometimes. There's a friendship welcome X. There, you can see a 4 there. You can see an A there, which is the clan leader signature. It's got a bunch of different things mixed in there. But it's basically talking about friendship and connection to that clan. It's got some of their signatures in it because the individuals have different symbols that are their signature, basically. Like my clan leader is A. There's a guy, Fortuna, he's 4. Rajase is an H. There's a guy called Little Bud, I call him that, and he's an open triangle kind of thing. So
they're using the sticks to identify themselves, I guess.
To leave a message, yeah. And then they also will tell you who left the message sometimes. I mean, yeah, I've had like complete sentences of stuff, and then there's a 4 at the end, like almost like somebody signed it. And it just, it just says this message, whatever it meant, by Fortuna, like that he left it. Yeah.
There was a question earlier, and Kevin didn't put it back up, but I can't remember. But roughly he asked if you'd been appointed a teacher of some sort from the Sasquatch. Is the one that you're with who's guiding you through all this?
Well, like they said, they told me I represent them everywhere I go. So yes, I guess in a sense I am.
Well, no,
I'm supposed to.
I think the question was a teacher appointed to you? Is there like a very specific entity that is guiding you specifically?
I'm kind of connected with the whole clan. Initially, it was the daughter, Rajase, was mostly connected with me. And she was the one who gave me the love zap and that big knowing. And I just knew it was her because it's just a knowing. You just know. And then the father, this is interesting too. The father, Ari, took over. And I can tell their energies have like personalities to them. You can tell their personality through the energy, and they're all different and individual. So the female was very strong but loving and smooth and gentle. The father he's just amazingly beautiful and wonderful. But when his energy first came in, it was like, holy smokes, dude, back off. Like it was, whoa. And you know what? He backed off immediately. He toned it down like immediately. So does that answer your question? Or?
Well, the question was just whether or not there was a singular teacher or master.
Oh, right. Well, no, they kind of all interact with me and all teach me stuff. Even the little guy now, like who likes to play around with me and we've had rock throwing contests and stuff. He is even getting involved in teaching me as well. And Fortuna, who's kind of in the background, but he's also taught me a lot of stuff.
So it takes a village, is what I'm hearing.
Well, the whole family is kind of like with me. Yeah.
Sorry, I saw Sky Penderson's question about do they take an orb form?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I thought I had a picture of them that I sent you, but yes, I've actually seen, my wife and I were taking.
If it said orb on it, I could have just pulled it out.
I know, you told me. Well, we'll do that. We'll do that when I do my own show, when we can get rid of the interloper here. I'm just joking.
I might have downloaded that one.
But I've actually seen, my wife and I we were camping, and we were pondering, and nothing is a coincidence, Jason. Like, you start thinking something, and then if they're working with you, odds are quite often they're going to show you what you're thinking, and they'll give you the answer. Like, often I'll think, I wonder if it's like this, and the answer is right below me in the form of a glyph or something. Like, they answer you immediately.
Yeah. But
as far as the orbs go, and this is really, really cool too, because my wife and I, we were talking about orbs because I had gone to a big conference one time where people were taking a lot of orb pictures. And so we were discussing them and whatever, and thinking, I wonder what they're all about or whatever. So my girlfriend said, well, let's take, I'll get the camera out and start shooting some pictures. And initially it was completely black. And then we started getting a few little orbs coming in, then more orbs, and then like a bunch of orbs. And then they formed into an entity. Like, you can actually see a real, I've got that picture there somewhere, actually formed into a real like entity. And the answer for me was, and it was, is that this powerful being was bringing his consciousness in from all different points of consciousness, I guess how you would say it, They were coming in from all over and forming into this one.
I'm going to see if I can just find that one, because I know.
Yeah, I've got a whole series. I've got the whole series of them, but I only sent you the one.
Yeah, just give me 1 second, Jason, if you can.
It kind of looks like smoke, but there was no fire, kind of thing.
Oh, just the smoke. Just the smoke.
That's it. Yeah. Can you see?
There you go.
That's what that all for. You can see like a phase. It almost looks like a sickle. There was no smoke there. That all came in from just from nothing to that, and then the next shot, it like walked off. You could see it walking off to the left, my left, and then shortly after that, we saw a huge face that was looking directly at my wife. So it was pretty spectacular.
Yeah. There was
I want to give a disclaimer to all those people who are flesh and blood only. Stick to your guns. Flesh and blood, seeing the Sasquatch as flesh and blood or primitive people, stick to that. That's good. That's a really nice way of being with it. If you're getting value out of that. What we're doing is just showing that there's more that we're experiencing. There's more to that side of it, and there's actually very few. There's probably only 400 or 500 people who will admit on Facebook or in the groups that they're having a spiritual connection to such. So we're we're a small part of the deal. Although a lot of people now are seeing orbs and other things and ETs and stuff. But it's not a requirement. If you only believe in flesh and blood, that's fine. That's the whole backbone of the whole investigations.
Well, let's ask this question here then. I know Seven Pills put no way to prove he was talking telepathic. Well, there's no way to prove anything with anything.
Yeah.
With anything out there. How does religion come into this? Some people might think if you're hearing voices, it's the demons, it's devils. They're appearing in a form to trick you. I mean, where does religion and Sasquatch meet with you?
I think religion is a box. I'm not saying it's bad, But you find a really hardcore religion or whatever, anything that goes outside of their belief system or contradicts what they believe or in their religious book or whatever, they automatically say is demonic or, bad. But that's not the case. Because,
I'm not saying everybody as well. Don't, just.
No, I'm not saying everybody, but I'm just saying, but when people say that, that's just, they can't get outside of that box because there's way more to it. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be in conflict because when I've been learning to do some healing and stuff, and when I'm doing it, I call in the Sasquatch and I call in Jesus Christ too. And there's not a conflict, man. They're all pulling on the same rope, there's not, yeah.
I'm a yogi. I was an ex-yogi. You know what
that
means?
Boo-boo.
Yeah, like that. A yogi. In other words, I've met 4 godmen of India, 4 of them. And one of them I was 3 godmen of India, and one was a fully enlightened man. All these guys were fully enlightened. They had God in them. And not only do they have God in them, they can transfer that God into you. That's what it means to be a yogi, to be initiated into the God energy. And I can tell you, and that God energy is light, and it's love, right? So you increase your light, you increase your love. That's what Sasquatch are. If you ask my opinion, they're archangel class earth spirits. Archangel class earth spirits. Okay? And does that, when you think about archangels, right? Don't forget that the people who were, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse were also archangels. So they can be badass, but they're also very high people. And to them, they say that they haven't fallen. And what that means is when God put them on this planet, when they felt like they were seated here, that the Creator told them to look after Mother Earth, and to look after the animals, and to look after the forest and the wild places. And they have kept that faithfully for something like 5 million years. You know what I mean? And that's they feel like they're on a mission from God every day. And so they have a kindness and an innocence about them. They also have all the scary stories of, if they're pissed off, they'll let you know. But they're really high beings, and they believe that they are doing God's work. Okay, so here again, there's a spectrum. There's a lot of them that don't want anything to do with humans, and they usually stay far away from humans.
But you know what, though? There's one point to that, is if you are known by a Sasquatch clan, even the ones that don't necessarily like humans, they have to respect that, and they know that. Because if you're known by one clan, they pretty well all know you.
That's true.
We had a question by Strangeland. That was actually pretty good. Do you have that one, or should I just say it?
I believe in both flesh and blood. That one?
No. He says, do you guys do field research? And if so, have you seen Sasquatch? I missed a few minutes. Didn't know if you said so or not. Well, my answer to that is I never really went out to look for evidence or whatever. Like when you don't go out and look for evidence and you connect with them to your heart, that's when you're going to get all the evidence in the world. I mean, like I can go out there and find tracks every day if I want. I can find their structures, all their stuff. And I do document that because it's for my own, because, like I said, when I look back on the glyphs, there's an understanding that can come further down the road. So I document all that, but I'm basically going out there for the connection with them and to be taught by them. And have I seen them? Yes, I've seen them in the physical many times. I've seen them in orb form. I've seen them in, like the predator form, a shimmery kind of watery thing. I've seen them walking around me in that form. I've seen them like almost fully materialized, but not quite. So yeah, I've seen them in many different ways. And I've actually seen them in the pure physical too.
We'll get this question up from Tex. How are you doing, Tex? What are their thoughts on the violent attacks and the reports of them eating their own. Is this just?
I never heard of that, but on the violent attacks, that's an individual. You have to know all the details on that one. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. People believe whatever they want to believe. So basically, I'm just talking about the vibe that I'm getting. And in terms of asking about if I do not do field research, I don't do any of that. And I have other things that I do in my life. There's other things that are more important to Sasquatch, and the Sasquatch respect that and give me the space. But I've had plenty of experiences from Sasquatch without going into the woods. And that's one of the things that they kind of let me know early on, is that they will come to me and let everybody know that if you can't go into the woods, they can still come to you if you pay attention. If you have a heart connection, they can still work with you. They can still give you visions and pokes and feelings and make you connections and all that kind of stuff. You don't have to go.
Yeah, I quite often feel them more at home than I do in the woods. Like when I'm doing my show and whatever, I feel them every show. Like there's some point where energy is like bizarre, lit up with energy. But sometimes when I'm in the woods, it's just like a peaceful walk, and I just feel tranquil and like at home or whatever. But I don't necessarily get all the energy. Sometimes I do, but it doesn't really matter where you are. And as far as the monster stories and all that stuff, well, we all hear, well, Sasquatch was trying to kill me or whatever. Well, guess what? If Sasquatch wanted to kill you, you're dead. And it won't be that hard for them. And so you're not going to be walking out of there to tell the story. So if somebody says Sasquatch is trying to kill them and they're telling the story about it, no. Sorry, not true. Because when a being can appear, can be right beside you cloaked, which they can be, or even go right inside of you, which I've experienced, and they're that big and that strong and that in command in their domain, if they want to kill you, you're dead.
Well, there was a sighting here in Texas, San Antonio, like 15 years ago, where they took a rock, where a Sasquatch took a rock about the size of a small watermelon, threw it, just caved in the head of a deer, walked up and picked it up and left. So to your point, it's like, hey, we know they forget even all of these other supernatural powers. They run faster. They can throw rocks fast enough to kill a deer. If they want you dead, you'll die. Is the end of that story.
So exactly. So when somebody says they were trying to kill me, bullshit. If they want to kill you, you're dead.
Tex actually has a question. He happens to be joining us from his lovely work at the moment. That he's working third shift.
He's on nights, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Rob's been flying solo.
Yes. What convinced you that you are dealing with Sasquatch?
Well, because I've seen them. They've appeared to me. I've communicated with them. I've seen their footprints. I've seen their structures. I've seen their glyphs. I've seen them doing that kind of thing. And I wonder if he's going the route. Well, maybe you're dealing with something demonic. No, if you feel the love, the absolute pure love, and knowing that they give you, and I'm getting that. Here we go again. There is no way that is demonic in any way. It is absolutely a pure light love. It's a high being, a high spiritual being. So I know I'm dealing with Sasquatch, and they're wonderful teachers, and they're wonderful high beings.
If you love your dog, how do you know it's love for your dog? If you love God, how do you know it's love for God? You see, this is kind of ridiculous questions. If you love your mother, if she's dead or alive, you love your mother. How do you know?
Yeah.
These are like, you just know. Okay, there's no question about it. And listen, I'll tell you something. Maybe it'll shock everybody. Like I said, I have a big God foot. Okay, that's just, I don't know if anybody's ever going to be on your show ever again who can actually say that they're seeing God face to face. That's what a yogi does. A yogi meditates until he increases the life force up until it turns into light, and then you're sitting there looking at God. Okay, that's what it is. That's what God man is. And I'm an ex-yogi now, but as soon as I got connected with the Sasquatch people, I knew like that who they were. And I've only had one speak one time, and they said brother, right, brother. But that brother still vibrates inside my head. When I understood, when I understood that they could come into my house and steal my little things and play with me and poke my feelings, and they were over my shoulder watching what I was watching on video. As soon as I understood they could come in my house, I said, you can have permission to come in my house. And as soon as I understood that they could come into my body, into my mind and my soul at any time they wanted, I gave them permission. If you want to come into my soul, into my mind, go ahead, right? Because like I said, I'm a yogi. I've had masters and Jesus and God, and I've had these beings, high beings, angels. I've had archangels inside me. That it's a highway there. You don't block that stuff out. If an archangel wants to come in and visit you, or God wants to come visit you, just let them. So I let them in. I said, it's okay, And if they want to treat me as if I'm a human, I say, this is my dog. And if they want to say, this is my human, that's fine with me, because I know how high vibration these people are. The ones who are dealing with me, because I keep my vibration pretty high. So maybe there's all kind of evil stuff in the world. Okay, I'll grant you that. That's fine. But the ones who are dealing with me are high-level spiritual beings, masters, ascended masters, and beyond that. That's why I call them archangel-class earth spirits. And the ones that Brian's dealing with are the same way. And there's a lot of the people who are having spiritual connection with Sasquatch,
Yeah.
This because they're holy men.
Yeah. A lot of this stuff is not, a lot of this telepathy and this mind speak is not done in words. It's done in an energetic knowing, It's hard to explain, but you don't question it. When it happens over and over and over again, it's just like a knowing. It's hard. I don't know. How would you explain that, Mr. Beans?
What's a feeling inside? Like we were talking before, Danielle and I was talking earlier today. It's a feeling inside. Remote viewing is a feeling inside. It's not remote. It's not viewing. You can put your mind to any point in time and any point in space, and if with a little bit of practice, you can tell exactly what's going on at that point in that place, right? So we can connect to any point in the whole universe by a feeling inside. We know God. If you know God, right? If you have the experience of God in church, right? How do you know? It's a feeling inside. You love your wife, you love your husband. How do you know? It's a feeling inside. You hear truth. It's a feeling inside. We are super tuned to be able to know the difference. And people who are talking about evil, right? Well, if you have evil, then that's a feeling inside. You know what I mean? I've dealt with, like, I used to be an exorcist, and I used to kick out demons and stuff like that. That's why I know this thing. And we actually had a lady on our show who was a demon killer, right? And she says the Sasquatch are not demonic. Okay, they may be angry, mean people sometimes, but they're not demonic. They're not demons. And I agreed with. That's why I sought her out. She made a living doing that, and I sought her out just to show they're not demonic. They're not Nephilim. They're not any of that stuff.
If Bigfoot was demonic, why isn't there loads of demonic stuff going on in the woods? I mean, to me, it just doesn't make sense that, everyone's entitled to believe whatever they want. But for me, this just doesn't even come into it.
Well, on a rudimentary level, when you go to the woods, on a rudimentary level, Jason, hold your thought. I feel like I'm running it. I'm used to hosting my own show. But when you go into the woods, don't you automatically have it's a different feeling, even people like on the most rudimentary level don't understand any of this. It makes you feel good, and you feel like some kind of connection or whatever,
Jason?
I'm sorry, I was just
Jason?
laughing. I was laughing at Colette's comment about the show, she just caught the tonight's show name, the title.
All right.
Yeah, I
just got the meaning. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It just caught me at the wrong time. By the way, I apologize for having to hop off a couple times. My allergies are killing me, so I just figured y'all didn't want to hear and see me coughing up my lung on air.
You know, everyone's got different opinions, haven't they? But what's great is that we can all just talk about it, and it's not an issue. And it's good people put up their questions if they want to challenge things. That's okay to do that. At the end of the day, these guys aren't here to prove anything to anybody. Just like you don't need to prove what your beliefs are and what you feel is true to us. And that's what these places are for us, just to people share their experience, whether you believe it or not, whether you think your opinions should override that. Everybody's entitled to their own, and this is a different kind of stuff we're talking about. Don't often get to speak to people like Pork and Frank here, you know, about this side of Sasquatch. So, you know, I'm fascinated by it. And
when I talk about them, like I said, I don't really care who believes me, but the ones who do believe it and get something out of it and maybe open some doors or their heart or something, that's the reason I talk. I don't care about, I don't have a reputation for one thing. So, but I don't really, you know, I don't care who believes what, but I do care for the people who do kind of get, and that's what they want. They want to connect to people. They want to open up people's hearts and their minds. And so you know, that's what the Pork and Bean Show is all about. We don't pull any punches.
No.
And all these experiences we're talking about, they're as real to me as you know, knocking on wood, even more so. You know?
Yeah. I mean, just like someone who, you know, heard a growl in the woods and believes it's a Bigfoot. They can't prove that, but if they want to believe that, what can you do?
Well,
you know, there's this some extreme,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not questions, but people's ideas of having to prove things when they can't actually prove themselves anything that they think they've experienced. So we've all got to just accept these are people's experiences, whether you agree with it or not. Like I say, we're not here to prove anything to people. If that's what you've come for, you've come to the wrong show.
On the Pork and Bean Show, you know, like we talk about, like I said, anything, and it's amazing how many other people, like they thought, wow, I can't talk about this, or it's weird, or who's going to listen, and it's like they've had experiences or similar or whatever, and it's like I said, it just gives credibility, or gives them, you know, it's real kind of thing, or it just And
we gotta have the conversation.
It's very common. It's very common. It's very common.
Yeah, we have to have, again, it goes back to, at this point, we don't have more than what we started off with 50 years ago. We have to have a better conversation. We have to start bringing in all the different perspectives so we can start sifting through and understanding. There was one last question, though, I'd like to end on.
Let's just put this up here. You know, Kevin Park, they beat in people's homes and kill their dogs out of love. We've no proof of that. And, you know, not everybody's going around sharing love, are they? We have people that do worse to their own race. You know,
well, they're people. They're people. They're people.
I'd call that a data point. You know, you have to take all the data. If somebody's saying that happened, then that happened, and we don't know the full first circumstance of why. Just let it be on the table. Let it be data, and we're providing one different kind of data set. Somebody asked this, Jackie Myers Lohman says, do they ever tell how old they are and they get right? That.
And what happens to the dead?
Yeah, that's the question I thought was great to end on. Yeah.
I was told by one of the Sasquatch elders, there's the ancient ones that guard the light. These guys are not really, I don't know what they are. I don't even know if they're in their body all the time, but he said he was from the clan of Hanuman. And this is a guy who directly was working with me. And in 2015, he was the one who stuck his entire hand inside my chest and took over my breathing to show me how to breathe air into my heart and how to increase the vibration of the heart. It's a heart spirit. So that's why I say that archangel heart spirits, earth spirits. So that's, to put it in perspective, if he was born into the clan of Hanuman was, according to the academics, 7,000 years ago. Christ quoted Hanuman from back then. Okay, he actually said that when Christ said, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can say to a mountain, come, and it will come. Well, that's out of a story from the Ramayana, which Hanuman picks up this mountain as devotion to his Lord Ram. Okay, so the academics say it's 7,000 years, but the people who are, boots on the ground kind of people say it was 50,000 years ago, that the war in Lemuria and all that kind of stuff, that Hanuman class. So this guy that's contacting me, the man that's contacting me, is somewhere between 7 and 50,000 years old. And that means that he does not spend a lot of time in the physical form. He spends almost all of his time in the other level. So that's just one data point. I've heard other data points of people say that it's very hard on them to live out in the woods, and at 50 years old is a life expectancy. And I've heard different things, but I'm just telling you about what I was told.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But what do they do? Have they told you what they do to the dead?
I guarantee you this was not normal. That's not the normal. That's not the average. It's just a data point.
No, that's fine. But we were just wondering if they had told you, if these things die, if these beings die, what is done with the corporeal body, or is anything done with it? Do they Jedi out of here, or
yeah, a lot of people
or do they not tell you? Yeah.
They may bury their dead.
Yeah. I've heard they bury them quite often under great big huge boulders and rocks and stuff.
I've heard that.
And as far as that guy's the fellow's comment about killing and all that, well, I mean, I have experiences with him every day. This is just personal to me. I've never had a bad experience. But I mean, if you don't consider the fact that they could be loving and if your whole reality is that they're monsters, and I mean, what do you expect? What do you expect from them, right? I mean, that's the reality you're going to experience.
I agree. If you look at the woods, right? On one hand, you could look at the woods as their home, and you're trespassing in their home. But on the other side of the coin, if their religion and their purpose in life is to take care of the woods, and they see you as going in there and defiling the woods, the woods are their temple. Okay, and if you want to look at it, take that analogy one more step. Remember what Christ did when he went into the temple of the moneylenders? He was pretty pissed off. He tore up the temple, moneylenders. That's where he got the name Lion of Judah, right? So if you're hearing this kind of stuff of angry in this area and they're nice in this area and all that kind of thing, you have to kind of feel like we can't project our thing onto them because we don't know. Is there children right nearby where they're at? Has there been a history of other kind of bad things going on that humans have done? You don't know what any of those data points are.
Yeah. And I would also say that with these people who are experiencing that, I think that if they changed their mindset and said, you know what, I wouldn't mind being your friend. Let's make peace. If they, instead of like fear, get your guns, let's go kill them all and all that kind of stuff. If they actually said, listen, I know you're out there. Why don't we come to a truce? Why don't we come to an understanding? Why don't we become friends? I bet you in a whole lot of cases, the experiences are going to change. But people don't come to that realization and never get to that point where they get beyond their monsters and let's treat them like monsters. Let's kill them. If you come to the point where, hey, why don't we become friends? that will change things. I feel.
It works in relationships.
It's certainly something to think about. Look, we're going to have a part 2 because we've literally just scratched the surface, I think, of getting into this. I know we had lots more of images to look at, but it's almost 2 a.m. in the morning here. We're going to have we're going to be back here on the 28th anyway, talking about the language side of this.
We haven't scratched the surface at all. I mean,
we haven't.
Really, like not even no.
We could do a whole show on what to do if you're having trouble with Sasquatch in your neighborhood. You know, what to do if you're having PTSD. You know, there's what to do if you're not getting the right kind of interactions. There's things you can do. You know.
Yeah. Well, people. Look, if you go to a person that you're not familiar with, and you pull the gun out at him, and you're getting real violent, and you're chasing them around, and you're being really negative, what do you expect the reaction is going to be? But if you come up to that person right away and say, "Hey, I'm Port Cunningham. I'd like to get to know you. How are you?" Changes the reaction, doesn't it? That changes the scenario big time.
Definitely.
So all these guys who are saying they're monsters and they're killing. I'm not going to discredit that. I've never experienced that. I'm sure it's probably happened, but what are you doing? What are you doing? Are you considering?
It also goes back to the question of whether or not there are multiple beings out there. Who's to say that the Sasquatch that is doing that is the same thing as the creatures that you're in contact with? And that may be the fact that there's more than the problem is we may just be putting everything in one box when there's multiple boxes.
Well, Sasquatch and Bigfoot are just different names for the same thing. But I do feel that some of them are not as evolved and maybe don't have the capabilities of others and are more on a lower vibrational level or whatever. So there could be differences that way.
Shockingly, Wesley Brown is unsubscribed because his opinion is more important than other people's opinion. Everybody's opinion is important. Everyone's belief is as important as yours. And that's why we're here and we do this. If you have to unsubscribe or leave, it's a pretty sad thing, I think, if you can't respect someone's opinion and you expect to have your opinion as well and for no one to challenge it. So
you are not your belief. That's what happens when you have a belief. You think that I believe this, and then if somebody contradicts your belief, it's war.
If you're inside of a box, you pretty well understand anything inside of that box, your beliefs. But the only way that you learn anything is to step outside of that box of beliefs and be open to it. So if you want to stay in the box and do that kind of stuff, then that's fine. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, look, it's been great. It's been fascinating. We will get together again very soon because we need to continue this on. I know Jason has
Love Zap for all.
Yeah. Yeah, so absolutely.
Put that on the table that the Love Zap is a possibility. You got all these other kind of possibilities we're talking about. Yeah, okay, I'll hand it to you. Fear sells. That's why YouTube channels push a lot of fear. But the Love Zap, it's worth seeking out.
When I got that Love Zap, it was so profound and so an instant knowing, that I was weeping, like literally. It was so beautiful. And once you've had that, there's no going back. Yeah.
It's all about the heart.
Yeah. And that's lovely. I'd rather hear something like that than someone trying to push, about money and books and stuff like that. I mean, it's as innocent in some ways as a lot of the stuff that's being pushed out there.
Yes.
And like I said, these guys aren't interested. They're not out to prove to you anything. But if you want to come along and listen to what they're experiencing, I think you'd be quite fascinated by it.
We're not the only ones. We're not. I mean, we're odd. We may be odd, but believe me, when you start talking to people and they open up to you, it's not that unusual. If you've got an open heart, these experiences, other people they've had them too, and they say, "Oh yeah," It's not that uncommon.
No, like I say, on the 28th, if you come and join us here, it's going to be 3 different people from different areas who don't even know each other that are experiencing this. And that's something. And that's going to be a great show where we can get all those people together. But guys, once again, Franco Beans, Port Cunningham, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I've really appreciate you sharing all that stuff with us.
It's actually Port Cunningham and Frank Oliver Beans, but
I'm so sorry.
All right,
let's get the order straight.
I wish you'd have told me that earlier. I would have swapped you around on the screens as well.
I'm joking. The guy, he's the best co-host I could ever hope for. You know, he's a beautiful guy. Love the guy. Yeah. We always joke around or whatever. He don't like it as much as I do. But.
Thanks, Danielle. This was really a treat for us. Because we're like blabbermouths. We like to talk.
Yeah, and I hope we don't let you lose all your subscribers. You probably have like 2 subscribers at the end of the show.
Yeah,
you got people saying, "Have them back on. This is a great show. I'm going to watch later."
Exactly, you are going to come back on. I've put all the links to your shows in the description, guys. Go and check them out on YouTube. Go and check them out on Facebook. They've got a group. They do their own shows there. There's some really, really interesting and lovely videos.
80.
Can I just give a plug, even though I'm not about myself, but just because I like to inform people and because I take great joy in doing it, can I tell you my YouTube channel in case you want to? Because I talk about all.
Bad pork.
I don't make any money on it. I just, but no, I don't. I don't make anything on it. People don't like me enough so that I can be monetized, and plus I put like music on there that whatever. But anyway, I do. Well, if you want to hear more about like the spiritual side of it, I do have a YouTube channel called SASQUATCH BC, the true story, the Pork and Bean Show.
Yeah,
Pork and Bean Show is first, man.
No. I switched it around. You know why? Because my friend told me, "Hey, man, no one's going to listen to your show because they think it's a comedy show when you put the pork and beans first." So I switched it. So now it's SASQUATCH BC, the true story. The Pork and Bean Show.
Okay.
We're a comedy show.
Guys, either way, the link is in the description. And I've also just put a link in the chat now, in the live chat. Go and check out their channel. There's one video in particular. I sent it to Jason before. Which one's it called? The one with Mary in.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm pulling it up.
That's my favorite. I'm going to put that up now as a link in the description. I'd love everyone to go and watch that. And whether you believe it or not, whether you believe what's happening is really happening. But at the end of the day, what Mary experienced and what they all actually experienced out in the woods is something pretty special. And I've just put a link there in the chat.
I think just this Sasquatch Connection series. Yeah, it was an interesting video.
Yeah, definitely. Leave a comment later on. Let them know what you think. We're going to get back together again sometime soon. But again, once again, guys, Jason, Paul, Frank, it's been a pleasure. Guys, I'll see you all in the week. Everyone, thanks for being here tonight and interacting in the chat. I appreciate you all. And the mods as well, who do a great job. But until the next time, everyone, good night.